MedLore presents The Boy Who Slept for 11 Days. At 6:40 on a Monday morning, the alarm clock had already gone off 3 times. Ryan Carter's mother stood outside his bedroom door, knocking gently at first. "Ryan, you're going to be late." No answer. She opened the door. The room was dim, curtains drawn. Ryan was lying exactly as he had the night before. Still. Quiet. Breathing slowly. She walked over and shook his shoulder. "Ryan, wake up?" Nothing. At first, it felt normal. Teenagers sleep heavily. But something about this was different. There was no reaction. No groaning. No turning over. No sign that he was even close to waking up. By the end of that day, Ryan still wouldn't wake. And within 48 hours, doctors would realize they were dealing with something so rare, most of them had never seen it outside of textbooks. Ryan Carter was 17. A high school senior balancing the usual pressures of exams, expectations, and figuring out what came next. He wasn't extraordinary in any medical sense. No chronic illness. No neurological history. No hospital visits beyond the occasional childhood injury. If anything, Ryan's life was predictable. Morning classes. Afternoon basketball practice. Evenings spent either studying or scrolling through his phone. His parents often joked that the hardest part of raising him was getting him out of bed in the morning. Ironically, that would soon become impossible. The week leading up to the incident had been slightly more stressful than usual. Final exams were approaching. Ryan had stayed up late multiple nights in a row. Drinking energy drinks, sleeping less than usual. But nothing that would explain what was about to happen.
It began on a Saturday afternoon. Ryan came home earlier than usual, dropped his bag near the door, and without saying much, walked straight to his room. His mother called out to him, asking if he wanted lunch. "Later," he replied. His voice sounded distant. That was the first subtle change. He skipped lunch, skipped dinner, and went to sleep before 7 p.m. His parents assumed he was exhausted. Teenagers do that sometimes. But by Sunday morning, something felt wrong. Ryan hadn't woken up. At first, they let him sleep. Then they tried waking him gently, then firmly, then urgently. His father shook him harder. "Ryan, wake up. This isn't funny." Ryan opened his eyes briefly, but what they saw wasn't normal. His gaze was unfocused, confused, almost as if he didn't recognize where he was. He muttered something incoherent, reached for the blanket, and fell back asleep within seconds. That moment changed everything. This wasn't normal sleep.
Over the next 24 hours, the situation worsened. Ryan was now sleeping almost continuously. When he woke up briefly, his behavior was strange. He would speak slowly, struggle to form sentences, seem unaware of time. At one point, he walked into the kitchen, ate rapidly without speaking, then returned to bed without acknowledging anyone. It was as if his mind was only partially present. By Monday morning, his parents made the decision. They took him to the hospital. In the emergency department, doctors immediately began evaluating Ryan. Unresponsiveness in a teenager raises serious concerns. They considered the most urgent possibilities first: drug overdose, brain infection, seizure activity, head trauma. Blood tests were performed. Everything came back normal. Toxicology screen, negative. No drugs, no alcohol. Neurological exam showed something unusual. Ryan wasn't unconscious, but he wasn't fully conscious either. It was a state somewhere in between. Doctors ordered imaging, a CT scan of the brain. Normal. MRI scan. Normal. No swelling, no bleeding, no structural abnormalities. An EEG was performed to monitor brain activity. No seizure patterns, no abnormalities. Everything looked normal. And that was the problem, because Ryan clearly wasn't.
As days passed, Ryan remained in this state, sleeping nearly 20 to 22 hours a day. When awake, new symptoms appeared. He became irritable, emotionally unpredictable, detached from reality. At times, he didn't recognize his own parents immediately. At other times, he displayed sudden bursts of hunger, eating large amounts of food quickly, almost compulsively. Then, just as suddenly, he would fall back asleep. Doctors were now dealing with something beyond typical neurological conditions. A senior neurologist reviewed the case. He listened carefully. The prolonged sleep, the behavioral changes, the cognitive confusion, the normal test results. Then he said something that caught everyone's attention. "I think I've seen this before." He mentioned a condition so rare that many doctors never encounter it in practice. Kleine-Levin syndrome, also known as sleeping beauty syndrome, a disorder where patients experience recurring episodes of extreme sleep, sometimes lasting days, sometimes weeks. During episodes, patients may sleep almost continuously, experience confusion, show behavioral changes, have altered perception of reality, and between episodes, they return completely to normal. Ryan's first episode lasted 11 days. 11 days where most of his time was spent asleep. 11 days where reality felt fragmented. When he finally woke fully, he had little memory of what had happened. To him, it felt like time had simply disappeared. Over the next year, the episodes returned. Unpredictably. Sometimes triggered by stress. Sometimes without warning. Ryan had to adjust his entire life. School became difficult. Social life changed. Every plan came with uncertainty. Because at any moment, he could fall back into another episode. Medical explanation. Kleine-Levin syndrome is believed to involve dysfunction in the hypothalamus, the part of the brain responsible for regulating sleep, hunger, and behavior. The exact cause remains unknown. There is no definitive cure, only management. Ryan's case reveals how fragile our most basic biological systems truly are. Sleep is something we trust, something we rely on. But when the brain's control over that system fails, even something as simple as waking up can become impossible.
Every night, we fall asleep expecting morning to come. It's one of the most predictable cycles in human life. But for Ryan, that cycle became uncertain, uncontrollable, and at times, completely out of his hands. If you enjoy deep medical mysteries and rare neurological cases like this one, consider subscribing, because sometimes the most ordinary human experiences hide the most extraordinary medical stories. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe.